Welcome back, friends and family, to another video in my wedding dressmaking series. I left off in the June, and at that point I did not have a single dress done. I had wanted to get the dresses done by my bachelorette party at the end of July. My brother and his girlfriend and I had driven down to Florida, and we had spent a week there before my bridesmaids came down over the weekend, and I had really wanted to be able to bring down Monica's and Jenna's for them to be able to try it on. While I did get Monica's and Jenna's done, I wasn't able to finish the other three, and at this point I still had not started Lila and Liana's dresses. The real big thing that was keeping me from getting these dresses done was ironing and cutting out the skirt pattern. And it was really just the big panels of the skirt pattern that was taking me the longest to do. And I really just didn't want to work on it. It was what was holding me back on finishing their dresses. It was also holding me back from working on my own dress because I wanted to work on my dress after I had finished theirs. The week before, maybe even 2 weeks before the wedding, my parents came over like pretty much either every day or every other day, just trying to help me finish projects. So while I was doing the dresses, I was also doing other things. So our programs, we also did a wedding through the years display. So my dad made us 3 stands. Our best man's dad stained them for us. We collected photos from each of our guests of them on their wedding day so that we could display them in little frames. And then we had photos of our grandparents and our parents on their wedding day as kind of the centerpieces of the 2 stands. And then the third stand was just a banner that said, "To all that have come before us, to show us the way." We also made kids activity books. We didn't anticipate our ceremony to be very long, but we wanted to be able to have something interactive for the kids to be able to do in case it was really boring for them. We also made all of the signs for our wedding day, so we printed them all on the Cricut and then transferred that over onto the mirror, which was our welcome sign, just a couple other acrylic smaller signs. We also wanted to do something really special for our wedding party who put in a lot of work to help us. A lot of them took extra weekends to come and help either me sew or iron or just do little projects, but there's no way that we could have gotten all of this done without the help of our friends and our family. We truly are so grateful that they were willing to give us their time to be able to make things turn out exactly the way that we had hoped they would. We made them a sweatshirt out of a design that we had put together and ironed them on. Spencer's parents really helped get all of them together for us. The other big thing that was going on in the background of all of this is my work went through a really big change. My day-to-day work did change. And to have that be the majority of my day and then know that the minute I logged off the computer, I needed to switch and do all of these wedding projects made it really difficult for me to have a lot of motivation and to keep going on these projects and not get burnt out right away. I finished all of the bridesmaids' dresses the week leading up until the wedding. So I finished hemming them, I finished cutting out any of the skirt pieces that I needed and sewing it together. And like I was saying, sewing those pieces of the skirt together was the quickest part of that process. The part that slowed me down the most was truly the ironing and cutting of those pattern pieces that just felt so daunting to me. I was also really worried that I was going to end up running out of fabric when I was cutting those skirt pieces out, which you would think would make me want to cut them out earlier so that I would know soon enough to be able to order more. But for whatever reason, I really didn't want to know how close it was going to be to me running out of fabric. So I was truly just avoiding finding out that answer because I truly thought that I wasn't going to have enough. I finished my dress the night before the wedding and then did just a couple extra detail things the morning of as we were getting ready that probably no one but me noticed. We were able to get into our venue on the Thursday before our wedding. And so I had brought along pretty much everything that I needed to finish up. My mom had taken that bodice piece of her dress home and detached the rest of this lace that I ended up putting on my bodice. And then Thursday and Friday, I really spent at the venue just sewing the entire time, which really kind of sucked because I wish that I would have been able to set up more and spend more time with everybody who was there for us. And our wedding party came in early so that they would have an extra buffer day. And truly, we wouldn't have been able to get anything done without them all there. But I just feel like I wasted so much time that I could have spent with them sewing this dress. And that is something that I regret about this process. So I finished sewing the lace on the bodice Friday after the rehearsal dinner. I stayed up later to sew the snaps on my sleeves, and I was probably up until about 2 in the morning trying to get those snaps on. The next morning, I really worked on just trying to quickly readjust those, and I don't think that would have gotten done without my brother's help. So my brother Matt had come in. I don't know if he came into our room or if I went and found him, but he had helped. Him and his girlfriend, when we went down to Florida, had helped me a lot in just doing little sewing stuff while we watched TV. And so I knew he was plenty capable of helping me. And so when I realized that my sleeves were on the wrong side and that I wasn't going to have enough time to be able to get it done because I needed to start getting ready, I found him and essentially begged him to fix my sleeves. And I don't think that I would have had sleeves for our ceremony if he would not have helped me with that. While overall, I was extremely pleased with how my dress turned out, there are some parts that I wish I would have done a little bit differently. Even just throughout this whole process, there are things that I wish I would have done differently. I wish I would have started with my dress and then done the bridesmaids' dresses after if I would have had a little bit more time. I think that I wouldn't have lost as much momentum in doing it that way. I love doing things for others, and I really have a hard time putting myself first. But I think in this instance, if I would have just done mine first and got it taken care of and out of the way in the way I would have had to think about doing it, I think that I would have had more time to really add in all of the details that I was hoping and wishing to have. And it just would have gone a little bit more smoothly, and I would have had an easier time getting an end result, not only on my dress, but on the bridesmaids' dresses. Their fits just were a little bit off in kind of the way that it sat on their bodies, which is hard when all I have is the mannequin and I don't have them with me the entire time that I'm working on them. And this is probably the biggest sewing project that I have ever done, which overall makes it difficult. But I do wish that I would have added either a little bit of interfacing or some boning into my bodice. I had originally planned to put boning in my bodice just to help it stay up a little bit better. There are some photos that we have where it does bunch and roll a little bit, and it's really hard for me to not look at those photos, even though they're really great photos, and think, dang, if I would have just done this, this photo would look so much better. In that same vein, the front seam of my skirt, this is a seam I didn't even need to cut into the skirt. I could have just left it and just cut the back seam, and it would have been completely fine. But because I worked on the skirt piece while I was in Florida, I didn't have all of the tools I normally had. I was a little discombobulated in trying to get it all done. I rushed through it, I think a little faster than I normally would. Our hair and makeup person was asking for pictures of me in my dress, and I didn't have a dress at that point. And so it was really just rushed. From that, this front seam is pretty bunchy. And so in a few of those photos, you can see that, but it is another one of those things where it's hard for me to look at the picture and really enjoy it when that is the only thing that I can see. Another thing that I wish that I would have had time for is I really wanted to have beading all throughout this entire dress. And I had enough beads from my mom's dress. The problem was I ran out of time. So the day of the wedding, I ended up just sewing a couple extra sequins and beads onto the bodice just to kind of balance it out a little bit. Some of the lace that I ended up having to supplement in because I was running out of lace from my mom's dress had beading already built into it. And so I just needed to add some of her beading to help kind of balance it so that there wasn't beading in just weird places. But I really wish that I would have had more time to be able to add that beading throughout the way that I had wanted to in the beginning. And I think that it would have just overall like made the dress look a lot prettier. The mesh in the back I think would have looked a lot nicer if I either would have left the beading on it even though it was falling off and just fixed the pieces that were falling apart instead of taking it all off and then not having time to add it back on the way that I would have liked to. The sleeves had some extra fabric around the shoulder seam that if it was sewn in normally wouldn't have been that big of an issue, but because we were attaching it with snaps and not sewing it in directly, it created a little bit of weird bunching in the back, which wasn't a huge deal. I just had Monica tuck it in to the dress and you couldn't really tell in any of the pictures. Other thing that I wish I would have had a little bit more time for was my veil. I did my veil in a cape style. So I pretty much just safety pinned it to my shoulders. One side sat and laid really nicely and the other side, the safety pin in it or the way that I sewed the fabric together, I'm not sure, but it just did not lay nicely on. And that really wasn't something that I had any time to test because I had just quickly sewn the fabric the way I needed it to insert the safety pin, to snap it on my shoulders, to then wear it out the door. And if I would have just accounted for a little bit more time or done my dress first, I think that it would have allowed for these couple little things to look a little bit better and for it to look a little bit more professional. Overall, I am so happy and grateful to have taken on this project. It just added such a special touch to our wedding day. I learned so much throughout this entire project, and I'm so excited to be able to utilize those skills moving forward in my sewing journey. Something that I would really love to finish my wedding dress the way that I wish I would have. Let me know if that's something that you would be interested in seeing. Thank you so much for watching and coming along on this journey with me. I'll see you next time.